So in this video, we're going to look at how you can evaluate. There's a range of different command terms that ask you to do this. From discuss to justify to do you agree, what's the most important reason. It's a difficult skill to master. It comes up at the end of assessments. It's the questions that carries the most mark on your paper, and you'll often be asked to make an informed decision. So when you are evaluating, you're making a judgment, you're giving your opinion, you're justifying it, you're saying why. The problem I found in the past is that students have been told how to do this but not shown, okay, which will help them. And if you find extended writing hard, I'm going to give you a few strategies you can use today which will help you. So just remembering, this is just my own opinion. Other teachers might tell you to do it a bit differently or to add things on in different ways, but it's a system I've used and it works well for me and the students I've worked with. The sentence starters will help you to evaluate. They're just prompts, and the rest of the information comes from you and answering the question that you're asked to answer depending on the subject you're looking at. So when examiners are looking for you to evaluate, okay, they're looking for a range of skills to be included in the answer, from you demonstrating your knowledge, from being able to analyse your answer in detail, to be able to make a judgment based on your arguments, and then looking at how well your answer is organised and structured, and obviously more importantly, making sure you actually answer the question properly. Sentence starters I've given my students to use in the past would be, so when they're arguing in a paragraph, they could use like the words like however and even though, and then when they come to doing a conclusion, this use works to conclude, then you answer the question, say why, my most important reason is, however, it depends on X, Y, and Z. Even though it's an issue, it could be overcome by doing this. In the short term, this was an issue. In the long term, this could be done. Other stakeholders we affected are X, Y, and Z. So you just use those words, not all of them, but ones that you find useful in that essay, as and how you need to. So here's just an example, just to kind of get us started. Should Mr. Bond open a restaurant in Mashida, which is a small city outside Tokyo in Japan? So to conclude, I think Mr. Bond should open up his restaurant in Mashida. My most important reason is because there are a lot of people who pass through each day, so he could get a lot of customers for the business. However, just because he's located there doesn't guarantee he's going to be successful, so he needs to think about where he's going to locate the business because there'll be competition, so he might find it hard to get customers. So in the short term, okay, he needs to think about how he markets the business in order to attract customers. In the long term, then, he needs to develop a competitive pricing strategy so he continues to get customers. Then thinking about, are there any other kind of stakeholders affected by this decision? And if you see here the last point in red, other stakeholders who would be affected by this would be potential employees, because they would be the ones who are working with the customers and looking after the customers, so they need to be reliable and treat them well so the customers want to come back again. So I just used those sentence starters, and the rest of the information just came in according to what I was asked to do. For the new specifications, I'm going to give you a few more examples. Again, remember, this is just my opinion. And if you do find extended writing hard, just try it out and see how you get on. This is GCSE history, AQA, 12 mark question here, focusing on the Weimar Republic in Germany, 1919 to 1923. What was the biggest issue they had? Was it economic issues or political unrest? Explain your answer with reference to both reasons. I would tell students to maybe answer this in over the course of 3 paragraphs. You might have an introduction at the start. You can ask your history teacher to tell you if you want to include that. But to structure your answer in terms of analysis and evaluation, you do it over 3 paragraphs. So how do you structure those paragraphs? Okay, argument 1, you're explaining, okay, the economic issues. Pick one and talk about the impact it had. So I'm focusing here on hyperinflation. I say why that was a huge economic issue and what impact it had on society. Okay, so on my point, I'm explaining it and talking about the impact. Alright, at the end of the paragraph then you can include a however. For this question you can do a however because you're asked to evaluate, so that will allow you to pick up some evaluation as you go along. So now on the other side of the argument, I have to focus on the political unrest that was happening in the Weimar Republic. So I talk about the fact that there was political unrest. I say why and the impact it had on the country. So my point, I've explained it, and I talk about the impact. And look at how my answer is well developed and well structured. You need to do this as part of the question. So now I've done both sides of the argument, and now I need to choose which one was the biggest danger. I've chosen the political unrest was my most important reason in the short term, okay, the implications for the country, and the long term. Okay, so I'm not going to actually read it, but I'm just focusing on the structure. Okay, you can read it in your own time. Alright, so you can see here how I've used those connectives to structure my evaluation accordingly. Alright, so the next thing is geography, 9-mark question for geography. Same concept, 3 or 4 paragraphs. For the sake of this question, I'm going to put in fourth, okay. You might have to give a definition at the start, so I've been asked to put in a definition for TNC, so I put it in. Then I've talked about the advantages of a TNC, so my point, I've explained it. I've talked about the implications as well, so using my connectives there. So what was the impact of having TNCs in the country? Okay. Argument 2 is the opposite, so I focus on the disadvantages, so I do my point, explain, and after I've explained, what do I do again? I talk about the impact. Alright, so you need to do that for both arguments. And now, based on those both arguments, I need to choose which one is the more important one and say why. Okay, so I'm answering the question. I'm saying I do not agree with the statement, okay, that they can only bring advantages to a country. The most important reason is that even though they have advantages, there are also a lot of problems they have as well. And I focus here on exploiting cheap labor, okay. In the short term, okay, if they leave a country, there'll be financial implications, which means people will lose their jobs, could cause an economic recession, as no one will have a source of income, and therefore they wouldn't be able to spend any money. And in the long term then, okay, focus on the damage caused to the environment, alright, because what you'll see with TNCs is a lot of them will become kind of a dumping ground for waste materials, and these materials have an impact on the local environment, okay, which can also affect the health of people as well. Alright, but more importantly here, look at how I just used those connectives and sentence starters to structure my conclusion. And at the same time, I've answered the question. The last example here is business studies, okay. Recommend whether Krispy Kreme, okay, with the company here in what we're focusing on, should invest in a development app. And 9 marks going for this. I would tell students to do 3 paragraphs, okay. Your first paragraph saying why they should invest in the app, so I give a reason why. I explain it because of the additional benefits it has, the impact it could have for the country, for the company, okay. And at the end here, you can include a however to evaluate, okay. So include a however there, and you can pick up some evaluation marks as you go along. The second argument, okay, is kind of the reason why they shouldn't invest in the app. This means that, okay, that they could question the fact whether or not they have enough stores to justify, because they only have 45 stores. All this information is coming from the case study. I'm just applying it in the context of the question. All right. The impact as a result, this could lead to, therefore. All right. So I put them in as well. And I also include a however at the end. All right. So again, I can pick up some evaluation as I go along. So now I've done argument 1 and argument 2. I just focus on the conclusion. So to conclude, I think Krispy Kreme should go ahead and invest their money in their app. The most important reason is because of advances in technology enabled products such as apps to be used effectively to build more and more personalized information about their customers. This information can be very valuable to a business like Krispy Kreme, as they can understand the buying habits of their customers more and personalize offers that will encourage them to spend more money buying donuts. However, the success of this, okay, depends on understanding the impact of the app that is being used in America, because they only know there is one over there, but they don't know how good it is. So even though I am saying you should go for the app and you should invest, you need to do X, Y, and Z before it's going to be successful. So in the short term, okay, I suggest they do exactly that and speak to customers in the UK about what they would like to have in the app. And in the long term, then they can work more closely with app creators based on the research they have gathered to make the app that will meet the needs of the customers. So again, look at how I've just used those sentence starters and just as prompts, and the rest of the information comes from me and from answering the question properly.